So this is one large juniper, and the variety is Juniper Squamata mayeri, Myers juniper. I noticed when I was in Taiwan, they were showing me some of these junipers that grow in the high mountains there, and they called the varieties of juniper that they grow as a Squamata juniper. I don't know whether it's correctly named or not, but the Squamatas are usually very prickly like this, and this is the steel blue variety. You must be wondering why I left such a tall one. This is made for a sculptor friend of mine. Today is Saturday. He's coming tomorrow, Sunday, all the way from Shropshire, which is about 200 or 300 miles away, to pick up this tree. But he's a sculptor, so he likes very sculptural things. So I said I'll do something like this for him. It was only started 2 years ago, but I'm going to now refine it and complete it. It's really just a question of cleaning it out. You see, Squamata is one of those juniper varieties that not many people like. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, early 80s, it was all the rage. People loved this species of juniper, but increasingly people have got bored with it because it is very hard to maintain. You look at the insides, you always get this browning in there, and the foliage has to be constantly kept clean, and the prickly foliage doesn't help either. So for all these reasons, it's fallen into disuse, no longer popular, but I still like it. We've got a lot of them in the field. So what I'm going to do is bring it back to some sort of condition for him to continue working on. And with all junipers, if you go outside, you will get a better view. All these long shoots, this is how junipers grow. If you don't trim them, they don't bud back. So all these 6-8 inch long shoots have grown in the last year. So all I do is go around and take the tips out, and this is how you get density. You must admit that this is a very dense tree. Again, remember with junipers, don't just shear it across like that, but go into the wood and cut into the wood rather than shear across the foliage. So that's what you need to do. I'm not going to show you me doing the whole tree, because this whole tree will take quite a few minutes to just trim. And I'll show you other processes. Other processes include cleaning the bark. I think I've mentioned many times before, all junipers have flaky bark, and you clean the bark out like this, and then you can brush it. Again, I will show you this process when I have tidied the rest of the tree. So I'm going to show you how we maintain these junipers. All right, so much for that. And if you leave me, I will now proceed by trimming this, and I will remove some of the wires and slightly restyle the tree for my customer to continue working on. So that's so much for now. I've now put this tree on our worktop because it was too low working on the ground level with the other turntable. So I've already started pruning quite a bit of the foliage out. Let me explain to you this tree. This tree is being made by a sculptor. So if he is a sculptor, I will introduce you to him when he comes tomorrow. Because he's a sculptor, he's very creative, and I don't want to do too much to the tree because I know that he wants to put his own stamp to it. Many people don't realize that on a working nursery, you've got to cater for a lot of different tastes. Different people come to you with different agendas. Some of them just want to buy a piece of raw material. Some people want to just buy a completely finished tree. They're not able to do anything to it. But in this particular case, this gentleman, being an accomplished artist himself, would like to do a lot of work himself. So I've only done the basics to this tree. It's a very full tree. And when I get my colleague to hold the camera in a minute, I'll show you with the bag trick what I mean by not doing too much. There are a lot of branches there that are crying out to be removed, according to my way of thinking or according to my taste. But it doesn't mean that he would like to do the same thing. So I've got to be extremely careful in how much I do to this tree. So having said that, I will continue to tidy up the tree. You can see the effect already. It is such a dense tree and I'm tempted to take quite a bit off, but I'll do some more cleaning up and then I'll call my colleague Tibor to come to hold the camera while I use the bag trick to show you all the different options to this squamata. So there you go. Let me continue working. So let me show you what's happening. I was telling you earlier on about the Peter Chan bag trick. So I have literally placed a bag over those branches. When I remove the bag, you will know what I mean. I was keeping those branches initially to make the tree strong and in case this client may want to do something to it. But the more I think about it, I think I should take this decision for him. Let me turn the tree around. This tree, by the way, is nice from every side. Even from this side, it looks absolutely stunning. And the tree doesn't like to be that tall. But being a sculptor, he likes large trees. I've kept the top, but he can easily cut the top off should he want to. Should he want to. Now, this is how the tree looks without the branch on the right hand side, which I've covered with a bag. You see that little side branch which pops up that way and then comes down. This adds balance to the right hand side and there's a top branch there. Now let me remove the bag and show you what lies behind the bag. All that is there at the top. I think I should bite the bullet and do it for him. Otherwise, someone else may have the problem. So I'm going to remove all these branches here and just leave this one, and these back branches. So you will see what I'm about to do. At this stage, I think I will call my assistant in to hold the camera so that I can show you how dramatic it is when I cut. I showed you what the tree looked like with the bag on it. Let me repeat it again. I want the tree to look like that. So all this is going to be removed, but because there is quite a bit of gin, and I think this customer likes gin, I'm going to keep these branches so that he can use it for playing with gins. Remember, less is more, but don't go to the extreme and end up with nothing is more, you know. Less is more is one thing, but if you cut everything off, you end up with nothing. Okay, so now this bit also is redundant. I don't think I need it. You see, I never waste any wire. I always try to undo the wire. People always laugh at me and say, why are you so stingy? But why should I waste? I think the world has come around to our way of thinking where we don't like any waste. Okay. And before I go too mad, I can even take this off, and these will all become gins. And that is the tray. Now I left this branch here because I did a very interesting experiment, and I'm going to follow it through and get this customer to follow it through. I used a thin branch here and spiraled it around the trunk to give like a tanuki effect. So this coil is going to go all the way up the tree. I'm going to point out to him what I want so he can do that later on. So I've taken this bit. So this bit is still alive, feeding to the top. And this, of course, is a proper live branch, part of the trunk which is still live. So you can see by clearing all that, we've got to this stage, and I'm now going to gin those, and you will see the effect of the ginning. And in fact, I don't know whether I need some of these long. I might buy some of these. So watch this space, and I'll come back to it again in a few minutes' time. Let me return to the work I was doing. I just got distracted by customers. So the nursery workshop floor is strewn with all these squamata branches that I cut off. And this is how the tree is beginning to look. And some of these gins, if we apply a blowtorch, you can bend it in whatever way you want. Again, I emphasize that because this is a customer's tree, I don't want to do too much to it, because they like the pleasure of doing it themselves. But I will do some rudimentary design work so you can take it on from here. So a little more wiring at the top and it should be done. So this is what the tree looks like after a couple of hours work. Not quite a couple of hours, and this is the debris I cut off. I wasn't going to do that much because I thought I would leave my friend David to complete it, but here it is, the tree after working, and I wanted to show you that gin which I left. Now mind you, I started working on this tree during the pandemic, maybe about 3, possibly 4 years ago, and I left it completely untrained or unchecked so that it could get strong and to grow well. So this is the state of the tree, and I left that top gin with tongue-in-cheek, as it were. Mind you, this was designed 4 years ago, and lo and behold, as many of you know, I went to Taiwan in November, December, and this was only 2 months ago. Without cheating, I was presented with all these lovely pieces of work, and here you are. As I was telling you, this is Juniper Squamata, Lambert's variety, and this is what the trees look like. There are some photographs in here I will take out and show you. Sorry, I'm working with one hand, and this is some of the pictures from this pack of photographic prints. This is what these trees look like in the wild mountains of Taiwan. And you look at the gin effects on this. Look at the gin effects on this. And this is reminiscent of what I've done with this tree at the top. So without cheating or cribbing, this is what nature does. Man can never recreate what nature can do. But it just shows you the inspiration we get from nature, or should get from nature. So although I received these pictures only 2 months ago, I had visions of this tree about 4 years ago in exactly the same style, without any cheating or cribbing. And lo and behold, I find that in nature you get trees like this. Not only this, I think I was presented this book by this Juniper King. I can't read his writing, but this is the gift. This was in 26th of November. He gifted this tree to me. And this is how these squamatas grow in the high mountains of Taiwan. This is a beautiful book, and look at it. Look at this gin, natural gins on these trees. I can only flick through the book. I have the camera in one hand and flicking through the pages with my other hand, but it gives you some idea as to what inspires bonsai practitioners and artists to create beautiful works of art. So even in the mountains of Taiwan, which is such a small country, they get snow. Look at the snow on these mountaintops. Look at the junipers. These are thousands of years old. This is in Taiwan. So you can see where we get the inspiration from. And these gins I haven't refined, but they will be refined. I'll ask this client to refine it. So I think on balance, keeping that gin was the right decision. It's a nice tall tree and I'm glad I worked on it. I wasn't going to work on it because I thought I would give him the pleasure, but I had the pleasure myself. And there you are. I've got about 20 or 30 more trees like this and bigger in the field. It's time I worked on it. I can't just leave them to grow forever. So I hope you've enjoyed this. This was a completely impromptu video. I didn't set out to do any videoing today because all my staff are away. I only have Tibor here watching the till, and I hope you've enjoyed this little episode. There's a long journey still ahead of this tree. He's got to look after it. Remind you again, I was taking a thin long branch to make it like a tanuki. So this, when it gets thick, is going to be a wraparound on that live trunk. So I'd love to see it in say 20 or 30 years time, when I probably won't have the pleasure of seeing it, but I hope this gentleman will keep the tree in good condition till then. So with that, I will end and show you again some of these beautiful pictures of what you can find in nature. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Now this is a very special YouTube video, and it's linked with work I've already done. There is a link because the tree I made was for David. If I can just ask you to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm David Powell and I'm a farmer from Herefordshire who turned his hand, I sort of stumbled into making welded metal trees. Really, that all stemmed from Peter's fault here, because I've always been interested in his work and bonsai, yeah. And it gave me the inspiration to make something out of metal.
This was a piece of sculpture that David made, especially for me. He called it the Peter Chan Pine, and I think this was made about maybe 5 years ago.
I think so.
Before the COVID.
It'll be 20.
Before COVID,
or
and
just,
it's always taken pride of place. It was in our centre, but now we brought it into our staff room, because this is where the staff are, so they admire it all the time. So this is a beautiful piece. You can see how large it is. Tell me how this is. This all metal. Is this cast or something?
Yes, this is all metal. So I try to use as much as I can metals that are recycled, that I've had on the farm. Yeah. So inside here there may be possibly a scaffolding tube or bars of the gate, and then I'm making the bark effect purely by welding.
Oh, just spots.
Yes, yeah, and that sort of thing.
So is this one piece another piece? So you join them?
Yeah.
I was wondering. I thought it was cast. It's not cast.
No, all welded and put together.
Okay.
Somebody said to me, "Do you heat it and bend it?" But I find it far better to.
What about the branches? Are they metal rods that you bend in the?
They will have been bent, but all the little twigs are nails.
So you're really a blacksmith as well. You use a forge, no?
No, not at all. No. So I'm a farmer really, so I'm just really using the tools that I've got on the farm.
Well, it's beautiful, it's so authentic. And I love this piece. I really love this piece.
Never needs watering, Peter.
I know.
You can go on holiday and forget about it.
But artificial trees I think you're the only person I know who does metal sculptures
Yes.
of bonsai. There are people who make the artificial bonsai, and these are made from resin. This is Paul Finch's work. So that's a bonsai made from resin with plastic foliage. That's pine. So they do that, but not this. Okay.
Unique.
So, unique. I'm now going to show you what I've done for David. So we walk now, we switch the camera off and walk down into our greenhouse and show you that. Come in here, we will show you.
Oh, crikey.
I spent most of the day yesterday doing it.
That's
Look at it.
superb, Peter.
It was so dense, I think you swept all the foliage off.
Yes, yeah.
We had I took 70% of the tree off.
Yes.
I let everything go. This was a big clumpy branch there. I took
Yeah.
all that off.
Yeah.
And I just kept the essential branches. What do you think?
Superb. Yes, I moved to tears almost. It's magnificent.
And I wasn't sure about the top, but I'm glad I kept it.
Yes.
Now, to give you a little more information, this, as you know, is Juniper Squamata mayeri.
Yes.
Myers juniper, the Squamata juniper. When I went to Taiwan, I've shown this on the video earlier, some of the bonsai artists presented with me with this beautiful set of photographs
Yes.
of Juniper Squamata, but the varieties, they call it Lambert's variety. And I'm showing you these pictures because
Yes, indeed.
you see the gin effect. In nature, all these gins are so natural. So when people criticize us for making gins looking unnatural, you see the gins you see in nature. Completely in
Yes.
nature, you see trees like this. So you see the
Exactly.
resemblance straight away. You look at that,
Yes.
So in nature, you get these dramatic gin effects.
Nature's wonderful, really, isn't it?
Yes, so
it's
as I say, I'm going to suggest that you keep the top. You keep the top, and then
yes.
this book, apparently the photographer who photographed these junipers spent 4 years in the mountains. So this was a book presented to me on my trip, and the more you look, the more you can see these junipers with the gins. They all invariably have gins. You see, like that. So
Yeah.
nature's elements. You look at that little bit. You see, it's just like that.
Exactly.
So I made this, when you think, 4 or 5 years ago, without even looking at this book.
Yeah.
So
You're ahead of the
Juniper
game.
Squamata does produce gin effects like that.
Yes.
So I would suggest we keep the gin. With your carving skills, you can improve it, because I've only stripped the bark. You can improve it a little more.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
uh,
It looks pretty
Take
well.
it forward. I clean the bark as well.
Looks pretty well perfect to me.
You got to keep at it. So the trimming, I will show you before you go how to keep it trimmed, because I trimmed it long back.
Yeah.
The shoots were that long because I let it grow to make it strong, but I've now trimmed it back. The only downside with Juniper Squamata, that it is a very difficult tree to maintain. Unlike the Chinese juniper, Squamata has this prickly foliage and very long shoots, and you got to keep at it. Not only that, inside the twigs, you get a lot of this browning of the old foliage,
Yeah.
and that looks very unsightly.
Yeah.
And
Just
if you
keep.
don't tend to it, it can overtake the entire tree and make it look very unsightly. So it needs a lot of maintenance. And of course the bark you got to scrubbing and rubbing it.
Yeah.
So there you are, that's your tree.
Fantastic, Peter. Thank you.
And the sculptor of that tree. So the two have come together. So this is David's latest work, a forest group. It's almost like a cedar forest.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. Yes.
Did you make the trees individually first and then put them together?
Yes, Peter, yes. Yeah, it's easier then. You can work out, well, it's
Okay.
exactly the same with your bonsai.
Yeah.
You can place the tree
I see.
and then work it out from there. And so originally I was going to put in sort of have some tall trees
Yeah.
here. So, and then something I've learnt from you, you always need space.
Okay.
And certainly the
Two
space,
grouping, yes.
yeah, and that just
It's
opened
a
it,
classic bonsai arrangement.
opened
Very
it up
nice.
a little bit, and we
Very
made it.
nice.
We made it like there's an old path that may
Yeah.
have went through the trees.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Very nice.